We can all benefit from proverbs from our elders. Africa is the birthplace of human civilization and home to some of the most ancient wisdom on the planet. The continent of Africa is an extremely culturally rich region and home to over 2,000 languages, 3,000 ethnic groups, and numerous belief systems. The Book of African Proverbs and Wisdom, Volume 1, from author J.P. Martin, available on Amazon, is a compilation of over 100 ancient proverbs and words of wisdom from the continent of Africa. This must-read book provides a diverse and expansive collection of timeless, wise sayings and knowledge which have been collected from every region of Africa. This book is perfect for anyone interested in learning more about the African culture and expanding their knowledge of human experience. Order your copy right now on Amazon. The Book of African Proverbs and Wisdom, Volume 1, from author J.P. Martin. Go to Amazon.com and get your copy today.
Peace, family. I hope all is well. I hope your day, your evening is going well. It's been a minute. It's been a minute since I've been live. So happy to see all. Well, I can't see your faces, but happy to see you all. Hopefully you're happy to see me live once again. Before we get started, please hit the like button again. Please hit that like button. Let's tweak the algorithm for some reason. And not to be a conspiracy theorist, but I've inquired to YouTube before. I'm like, listen, the numbers ain't looking right. The numbers ain't looking right. You know, people are saying they're not getting the notifications. People are saying they're not getting notifications that I'm going live. What's going on, YouTube? Am I shadow banned? Am I shadow banned, YouTube? And they were like, listen, there's no such thing as shadow. There's no such thing as shadow banning. Here we go. Lumumba speaks. Oh, man. Here we go. In the chat room already talking about some Ohio. Listen, where's my... Must I remind you again, Lumumba? Professor Lumumba, must I remind you again? Who's the back-to-back national champions? Again, who are the back-to-back national champions? Once again, for the people in the back that can't hear me, who are the back national champions? The University of Georgia. And guess who we beat? Guess who we beat? Hold on. Let me remind you. Guess who we beat to get to the national championship game in which we won? Guess who we beat? Here we go right here. This is who we beat. Your field goal kicker choked and cost you guys the game, okay? Again, your field goal kicker choked and cost you guys the game. That right there. You remember that? You remember that, Lumumba? You remember that? So my Georgia Bulldogs are the back-to-back and are going to three-peat, by the way. Let me repeat myself. Let me make sure this mic is on. Are going to three-peat, by the way. Okay? Is this mic on? The mic is on. All right, so I just want to put that out there. You know, Lumumba, guys, somebody, we might need an intervention. I think Lumumba is on that booger sugar. You know, because for some reason, the way Lumumba talks, you would have thought Ohio State won the game. You would have thought Ohio State were the national champions, but they're not, the way he talks. But again, I think Lumumba might be on that booger sugar. He might be on that narcotic. The way he talks crazy to me almost every day. But listen, the season, we are about 2 months out. We're about 50 days out, Lumumba. Okay? We are about 50 days out, and we're going to know who's real and who's not very soon. Professor Lumumba, soon to be Dr. Lumumba. Guys, even though he went to Ohio State, all right, he's an Ohio State fan, we got to congratulate Professor Lumumba. Hopefully he'll be a doctor soon. So give him a shout out. But guys, do me a favor, hit the like button, make sure you share, and make sure you subscribe. got a couple of announcements, or really one announcement, really a couple, because it has to do with the same subject, but tours. All right, so we are rolling to Nigeria, August 6th through the 15th. Again, we are rolling to Nigeria, August 6th through the 15th for the Oshun Festival. Again, we are rolling to Nigeria, August 6th through the 15th for the Oshun Festival. Please visit Danfo, 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 DANFO .Africa. Again, please visit Danfo, DANFO .Africa. Again, please visit Danfo, DANFO .Africa to learn more. Also, we are going to Zanzibar. Zanzibar, November 12th to the 21st, November 12th to the 21st. So please go to danfo.africa to learn more about, where we're traveling to. So, we got Zanzibar, we got Nigeria. We're doing Benin Republic for the Voodoo Festival. That's in January. And good news, Mata Bio won the election of Sierra Leone. He is going to have he's going to serve a second term. Again, he's going to serve a second term. So I'm more than confident that there will be another citizenship ceremony come November. Again, I am more than confident that there will be another citizenship ceremony come November. Everyone, come November. I'm pretty sure there's going to be another citizenship ceremony. So again, go to danfo.africa to learn more. Again, go to danfo.africa to learn more. It's not danfo.africa.com. It's just danfo.africa. Listen, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and then we will jump into the topic of tonight. For tonight, here shortly, we will be right back.
Alexis here, coming to you with an awesome sale of 25% off when you use promo code OHURU25 at alexisfowler.com. I provide services like digital art, logo designs, packaging designs, web designs, social media flyers, and much more. If you're an entrepreneur with a business or a startup company, make sure you take advantage of this opportunity, getting 25% off when you use promo code OHURU25 at alexisfowler.com.
We can all benefit from proverbs from our elders. Africa is the birthplace of human civilization and home to some of the most ancient wisdom on the planet. The continent of Africa is an extremely culturally rich region and home to over 2,000 languages, 3,000 ethnic groups, and numerous belief systems. The Book of African Proverbs and Wisdom, Volume 1, from author J.P. Martin, available on Amazon, is a compilation of over 100 ancient proverbs and words of wisdom from the continent of Africa. This must-read book provides a diverse and expansive collection of timeless, wise sayings and knowledge which have been collected from every region of Africa. This book is perfect for anyone interested in learning more about the African culture and expanding their knowledge of human experience. Order your copy right now on Amazon. The Book of African Proverbs and Wisdom, Volume 1, from author J.P. Martin. Go to Amazon.com and get your copy today.
All right, today's topic, we're going to be discussing, somewhat discuss the whole affirmative action ruling situation that took place last week. If you don't know, affirmative action, I guess colleges and universities can no longer use affirmative action when it comes to, deciding on enrolling a student into their university. And some people think that it's probably going to extend not only to colleges and universities, but also to the corporate workplace. I'm indifferent when it comes to affirmative action because I believe that there are enough Black people in higher places where we're now in position to affirm other Black people. What do I mean? And I'll give you this example. So back when I was in corporate America, all right, I do sales. I did sales. And I was transitioning in between jobs. So I just moved to LA. I was working for a company called Aflac, just moved to LA, and I was looking for another position. I wanted to get into pharmaceutical sales. And I remember I would run into all of these Black pharmaceutical sales reps in the Los Angeles area. And I'm like, hey, I'm a sales guy. Here's my resume. Any way that you could pass it to your manager. They would immediately tell me either A, we're not hiring, or B, I need to go on the website and fill out the application, which they're pretty much pushing me off, telling me to, kick the can, as they say. So I said, okay. So eventually I got on with Cintas. So I get on with Cintas, and what I noticed immediately was that at Cintas, Hispanics put on other Hispanics. All right, but Hispanic was working for Cintas. He went, got his homeboys, and got them at least an opportunity. At least got them to the position where they could at least drop their name into the hat. They would drop their name into the hat. Same thing with white people, same with all other people. They will put their people on. No matter what. They would at least, if they're Hispanic or their white homeboy was like, listen, I'm trying to get on, they would at the very least take their resume and put it in front of their manager and allow that manager to make the decision if they want to interview that individual or not. We won't even do that. At the end of the day, you're not the decision maker, and it's not going to hurt you just to take someone who's qualified, okay, who has a resume. It is not going to hurt you, all right, Black man, Black woman, to take that resume and just put it in front of your manager and say, hey, listen, I got a candidate for you. Check this out. And let them decide if they want to move forward with that person or not. Again, and let them decide if they want to move forward. Allow the manager to decide if they want to move forward with that individual or not. It's not your job. Again, it's not your job. Allow the manager to decide. And it doesn't cost you a penny. It doesn't hurt you to have, at the very least, take that brother or sister's resume and put it in front of that hiring manager. We won't even do that. So let's first affirm other Black people before we worry about affirmative action. We've been here 400 years now. All right. We do have somewhat of a foundation where we could put other Black men and women on. We have that. So me personally, I don't want to hear about affirmative action. Affirmative action starts within our own community. Again, affirmative action starts within our own community. That's all I'm saying. It starts within our own community. So affirm other Black people first before we start this. It ain't fair. It ain't fair. We being left out and all this other stuff. Let's start in our own community first, okay? Guys, I'm going to put the link in the chat room. If you're going to call in, you can add to the conversation. All right, link is in the chat room. If you want to call in, please. Okay, Todd, I'm sorry. Mexicans, Guatemala, Mexicans, El Salvadorians. I mean, come on, Todd. You're being disingenuous, okay? Lamuma Speaks, links in the chat room. If you're going to call in, you click on the link and you can tap in. And you're more than welcome to tap in. Go ahead, brother. Lamuma. Hello?
Give me 1 second.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, bro.
Give me 1 second.
Okay, yeah. Get your Obama phone together. I understand.
Here we go.
Get your Obama phone together. I get it. I understand.
All right, so we're here. First off, come on, brother. You know, I ain't on the Obama phone. You just kill that noise. And cam up. Don't get off camera when I pull up.
No. Go ahead, man. The floor is yours, man. I want all the attention to be on you.
You know what I mean? Don't get off the camera when I pull up.
I want all the attention to be on you.
And remember, you said 3-peat, so we double or nothing, right?
Of course we are. Double or nothing. 3-peat.
All right, run it back. And like it's gonna
listen, I got confidence in my team. I know what we could do. I know what we bring to the table.
First off, I know you don't have confidence because I saw your behavior behind the scenes. Right. So you can cap for your audience, but I saw your behavior behind the scenes 5, 10, 15 minutes before midnight. When you was on the ground acting like you was about to have a baby, like you was having contractions because you was in pain. So you can tap for your audience, but I saw my own eyes how a grown man was on the floor, falling out of his chair. So let's keep it a buck. The confidence, matter of fact, let's keep it a buck. You said before you was praying to white Jesus that my man's missed that prayer.
Listen, white Jesus answered my prayers. Hallelujah.
Here we go. Now you're speaking in tongues. Here we go. All right. So here we go. We talking about affirmative action. So I'm gonna push back. I disagree when you say we don't do these things. I disagree. I've been working in higher education for over 10 years, and I've seen these things take place where Black people do look out. Hey, here's this person's resume, CV, so on and so forth. I know I've done it. I haven't had the same opportunities done for me. So I will push back that on a macro level, we aren't doing those things.
Okay.
Number two, when we talk about Clarence Thomas, right? I don't make these ad hominem attacks that most people like to make, right? I saw some comments, particularly by some rather prominent scholars, calling this was nothing more than malignant self-hatred. Maybe the case. We know he has some issues there, but we're not going to get into that. We're not going to deal with ad hominem attacks. We're going to deal with the facts. So when we talk about removing affirmative action, there's a couple things, right? We know that Black history teaches us, particularly here in the Western world, that whenever there's been real or perceived Black progress, it's been followed by periods of racial retrenchment. So one of the issues I have, the major issue I have with this, is that they remove affirmative action, particularly we could say for people of color, but we're talking about Black folk. But they didn't remove affirmative action for white students, right? And we know that higher education has a history and legacy of exclusionary policies where it started off you had to be white male and elite, even going all the way up until we could dare say maybe the 1950s and 60s, there were still exclusionary policies, meaning what most of these PWIs, HWIs, what were rooted in whiteness, their missions were white, and that's why we were going to HBCU.
When you say they didn't remove affirmative action for white people, like what do you like?
I'm going to get to that. So what I mean by that is legacy emissions.
Okay.
So even if you aren't qualified academically to go to the school, if your father or grandfather went, you could still get in.
I don't see a problem with that.
But here's the issue. And on the surface, it doesn't seem like a problem. But those legacy emissions were created, right? So granddad, great-grandfather, dad were admitted, rooted in white supremacist exclusionary policy. So black people didn't have access to admission to those institutions, so therefore they can't be grandfathered in.
But
That's the issue.
But what happened to Howard over Harvard?
Hold on,
Hold on. Is a sellout.
Wait. Well, once again, I can't speak to that narrative, right? But I can address this issue. For example, Martin Delaney, the father of black nationalism, was qualified, was admitted into Harvard Medical School. He shows up, they realize he's black, they say, your ass can't come here. So his descendants are denied that legacy admission based on racial exclusion. That's the issue that I have. And and anyone who is for black empowerment should see that as a problem. So, okay, fine, you want to get rid of affirmative action, cool, but then white people still have affirmative action. That's the problem.
Yeah, but I wouldn't confuse legacy admission with affirmative action.
Well, it is, because these individuals aren't qualified to attend the institution, but they're being admitted because their father or grandfather went there, and their grandfather and grandfather were admitted to the institution based on racist white supremacist policy.
Yeah, but
and this is black and white. I'm not. This is not something I'm trying to conflate the facts.
Yeah, but I think it's a slippery slope, because in black institutions they do the same thing.
Such as
legacy admissions.
I'm unaware of that. But if that is the case, here's the issue. White people weren't barred from attending HBCUs. Black people were barred from attending PWIs.
You make a point. Let me bring Brandon on real quick. Give you some.
Yeah, I mean, it's I know reality situation.
Go ahead, Brandon. Brandon, you on your Obama phone too. Man, y'all on y'all Obama phones. Yeah, man, Brandon on his Obama phone.
Well, I mean, you messed up the algorithm talking about you going 3P. That's what the issue is. No, they about to ghost ban you for speaking this hyperbole, these alternative facts. That's what's going on.
Hey, shout out to Mr. Ifelua. Thank you for the super chat. Glad to see you back on the live, Dynasty. All right, Todd. Go ahead, Todd.
Yo, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
All right. Well, first of all, I'd like to say peace to everybody that's out here. You know what I'm saying? I have a bit of a disagreement with your premise, but for different reasons, or there may end up even being some overlapping reasons with Professor Moon. Well, first of all, one of the things that you got to understand is, according to Dr. Claude Anderson, affirmative action was created specifically for white people in the Constitution. Now, that definition of what white people was a lot smaller back then when it was created, but I'll just leave that there and then go ahead and let Brandon cook. I know he's gonna come off the wall with some other shit.
Go ahead, Brandon. Unmute yourself, Brandon. We can't hear you, Brandon. You gotta get your Obama phone together, bro. Get your Obama phone together. All right. Hey, but Professor Lumumba, but this is the catch-22, Professor Lumumba.
What's up?
It was primarily East Indian and Asian students who was really pushing to ban or get rid of affirmative action.
I know. Oh, very quickly. So this is a positive. Last week, I passed my comprehensive exams, so I'm now a PhD candidate and no longer a PhD student.
Congratulations, brother.
So I just wanted to put that out there. Appreciate you.
Congrats.
I'm aware of that because I actually went to a hearing about that at Ohio State, where there was Asian students and East Indian students pushing that. Yeah, I'm aware of that.
Yeah. So, but what are your thoughts on that? So, is that really? Can we really say white supremacy when it was East? It was East.
Right, but I'm not saying white supremacy, right? Okay. All I'm looking at is from the perspective of how does this decision benefit or harm Black people's access to higher education? That's the only issue I'm looking at. And so the only issue I'm stating is they did not remove these legacy admissions, which are rooted in white supremacy, rooted in what exclusionary policies for white students, right? When black people were not allowed to attend these institutions, even if they were qualified. An actual historical example I provided was, of course, one Martin Delaney, father of black nationalism. So they still get they get that benefit, even though, and we don't, and we would deny that. So that's the only issue I'm speaking to.
Yeah,
Hey,
but
Professor.
the
Hey,
East,
Professor.
but hold on 1 second, Todd. I'll pass you. But
Okay.
the East Indian and the Asian students were saying that they're being denied because unqualified Hispanic, Latinos, and Todd, I think that's the correct term, Latino or Hispanic.
Hey, I've heard Latino, Latinx. I don't know personally.
Two different things.
Unqualified Latino and black students were getting preferred treatment who didn't have the scores like the East Indian and Asian kids.
Right. So I would say this. So I think there's a couple of things. You could make the argument that that's rooted in anti-blackness. We know that East Indians and Asians are extremely anti-black. The second issue I would look at is going after what the softest target, right? Because there are a number, once again, of white legacy admissions who are mediocre, graduate from Harvard, Yale, and Oxford, and so on and so forth with C averages, but they're not attacking them. So I think they understand that, hey, we have a case, we take umbrage with this issue, and we're going to go after the softest target. But my only concern is looking at how does this affect black people's access to higher education at what? The preeminent institutions in America. And we know, and this isn't hyperbole or a historical cap, that many of these higher education institutions were built and funded and gained their robust endowments based off of what? The enslavement and trading of black bodies, also known as the transatlantic slave trade. And there's a great book on this entitled Ebony and Ivory, right, by Dr. Let me look it up real quick. But yeah, so I mean, if anything, they owe us. If you want to keep it a buck. Yeah, Ebony and Ivory, Race, Slavery, and the Troubled History of America's Universities by Dr. Craig Stephen Wilder. So, yeah.
Black Lion, go ahead.
Hey, Dons, what's up? Thank you for having me on the chat, man.
Oh, no problem.
Hey, Lumumba. Congratulations, Lumumba.
Thank you.
But honestly, both guys made some good points. But I do agree with Dias. I'll say a little bit more to a certain degree, because when I heard this news and knowing our history with affirmative action, personally, I don't think we should give a damn. I'll say to a certain degree, because one thing I agree with Dias, we're right. Listen, we got black institutions. We got more African Americans empowered and more, especially in corporate America, and that's even our own businesses, to a point where we can really sustain ourselves. We need affirmative action to a certain degree compared to what we did in the past. We can actually do a lot. We actually when you look on, when you see it now, we're doing good, and we can do a lot better. We don't really need affirmative action as we think we do. It's just like I agree with Diana. It's just a lack of unity and cooperation that we're lacking here. Trust me. Like I'm in California. That's all I see out here is looking for other racial communication and racial and other races, their community helping each other out. That's all they're doing. They're not saying nobody's better than each other. Nobody's doing worse than each other. They're just like Diana did this, that, and I agree. The other community are just helping each other out. They're just literally just helping each other out. And there's no secrets. There's nothing involved. They just literally help give their own people opportunities to do better. Like for me, like this. For me, I'm a type of eye for an eye type of person. Yes, a lot of
and Black Line, you're breaking up.
Involved into the lawsuit of why they should use race as a factor.
I'm saying you were breaking up, but go ahead.
Oh, can you hear me?
I hear you now. Go ahead.
Okay. But okay. I think the signal sucks out here. Sorry. But anyway, I see it as a great opportunity as to why we should push HBCUs more. Because one thing Americans my age and now has been saying is, and a lot of people start agreeing with Dr. Umar for a certain point. It's like saying, okay, this is a good time for us to leave this illusion of inclusion mentality alone. How about we use the opportunity to push the HBCUs 2 or 3 times more strongly? That's the whole reason HBCUs exist anyway. Which I was like,
well, let me speak to that very quickly. So I like, once again, I think this is a nuanced conversation. We advocate attending HBCUs, and we know there's research on HBCUs benefiting the Black student from a holistic standpoint.
yes.
However, there's only one HBCU in the top 100 according to the U.S. News World Report, and that's Howard University. Secondly, in terms of if you're seeking to go to graduate school, PWIs, HWIs provide more funding, right? So you are able to live comfortably while you are pursuing your graduate studies, rather than opposed to HBCU. So there are a couple of issues there that we have to look at in terms of the nuance. Now, I will say this, from my experience, I don't think you could get into graduate school based on affirmative action, right? I think you have to have the numbers and the metrics and so on and so forth. So my presumption is that this, of course, is based on undergraduate admissions. So
yes, no. I don't disagree with that. You're not wrong. I don't disagree with that. I just want us to. My thing is, like, sometimes we forget. Like, I remember, like, during the Reconstruction era, but after the Emancipation Proclamation, what was the original form of affirmative action? When we had no economic opportunity after we were forced to leave the plantation, we literally had to become our own source.
Well, actually, the government created the Freedmen's Bureau to help assist Black people coming out of course, the Holocaust of enslavement and getting a foothold in American society. So,
hey, hold on, no, that right there.
Can y'all hear me?
That's kind of false too, though, because
the Freedmen's Bureau isn't false. That was actually created. That was a government.
No. Let me finish. Let me finish, sir. The Freedmen's Bureau wasn't never only about Black people, because remember, it was talking about the freedmen and the orphans and the dispossessed and all of that. It was all lives mattered from the beginning.
It was literally headed by a white guy. Right. How could it even be for Blacks and white guys running it?
No, what I'm stating is this was. So you're taking this and you're moving it somewhere else, right? I'm stating the facts too, right? The Freedmen's Bureau was of course a government organization that was created to assist Black people coming out of the Holocaust of enslavement. That's all I say.
It wasn't never even called just the Freedmen's Bureau, is my point, though. It was the Freedmen's and other people.
Okay, well, pull that up.
Can I say something?
Brad, you sound real muffled. Like, I don't, you're your.
Because I'm looking at it right now. The Bureau of Refugees, Freedmen, and Abandoned Lands, usually referred to as simply the Freedmen's Bureau, was an agency of early Reconstruction assisting freedmen in the South. It was established on March 3rd, 1865, and operated briefly as a U.S. government agency from 1865 to 1872 after the Civil War to direct provisions, clothing, and fuel for the immediate temporary shelter and supply of destitute and suffering refugees and freedmen and their wives and children.
Do I sound muffled now?
No, it's good.
No. Go ahead, Brady.
Okay, so the whole thing I want to say is this. Professor Lumumba is saying, oh, this is a nuanced conversation. There's zero nuance to this conversation. This is a straightforward conversation. Now, you can have people who try to speak eloquently and make you believe things that are just absolutely fundamentally flawed. But here's the issue. Black people gonna call everything racist no matter what it is. Wrap your minds around this for a second. White people are racist, so we need affirmative action. But then when they give you affirmative action, they're even racist within affirmative action. This is why affirmative action is totally unnecessary. Because no matter how much white people bend over backwards for Black people will always default to the argument of racism to justify laziness, lack of desire to do something.
Well, no one made an argument of racism.
Every time I hurt your feelings, you got to interrupt me. Every time I hurt your feelings, you have to interrupt me because clearly
you didn't hurt my feelings. I just said that no one on the panel has made an argument of racism.
With all the intellect that you have, you know I wasn't talking specifically about people on the panel. You know that, but you'll use that.
I'm just going on what you said. The second issue is when we talk about affirmative action was created during the Lyndon Baines Johnson administration. However,
Professor Lumumba,
the primary beneficiary of affirmative action was white women.
listen,
So
I've talked
primary
to many,
beneficiary of affirmative action was white women.
listen, I've
throughout the country.
argued with many women in my life, and one thing I know that women do is they'll take something that you said out of context purposely, just to have a reason to argue, to interrupt you in the middle of your statement. We're not doing that. No matter what these people do to give us equality, with quotes, we will find a way to claim racism even within that. So when you talk about affirmative action, you got a bunch of black folks talking about affirmative action is racist because it only benefits white women. So when they get rid of
no one
affirmative
said it
action,
only benefits. I said they are the primary
why
beneficiary. But I
why
didn't
don't
say
you
it was
interrupt?
racist. I just
Why
said they
don't you?
benefited from it the most because
Why
affirmative
don't
action
you?
is based on being a
Why don't?
minority. It's not
Why
based on
don't you?
being a
Why
racial
don't you?
minority. It's based on being a
Why don't
minority.
you interrupt? Why don't you interrupt anybody except me, bro? Because
Because
what I'm saying,
I do interrupt. I wouldn't interrupt everybody. Everybody knows it's about me. It's something I need to work on. But I just interrupted Black Lion.
I just listened to you guys talk, and you were not interrupting. This is the
I
reality.
did interrupt Black Lion.
Dinus, everything is going to be racist no matter how you flip it, spin it,
No one here is crying racism.
Jesus Christ, can I talk? This man, if this man was in a classroom and a student did this to him, he would be, a white student did it, he would be screaming that they were a racist and they don't respect
No,
it.
I wouldn't. I've never done that. No, I'm a cam up. I've never done that in class. I don't flippantly accuse people of racism or bigotry. So don't speak to my personal behavior. You can speak to what I'm doing here on the show, but I've never attacked one of my students in class for having a dissenting opinion. In fact, it's something I encourage.
Dinus, this is exactly why these people have to cry, beg, and whine for affirmative action, because they don't respect other black people. There's nobody in America who could tell me that if this was a white person talking up in one of these staff meetings, Lumumba would be jumping up and interrupting him and all that stuff. He'll be a good little Negro and stay in his place. But when it's other black people, we don't deserve it. We don't deserve it.
I ain't never been that. I ain't never been that.
We don't deserve it.
All right. One mic.
So don't attack me. Make your argument because I ain't never been that guy. You got me confused with one of those dudes out there in Cali, bro.
Guys,
for real.
Guys, hold on.
No.
Brandon,
we don't deserve, in the eyes of people like Professor Lumumba, we don't deserve the respect that he gives to his white counterparts. That's why he jumped up.
What are you talking about? I don't get. What are you talking about? Respect to my white counterparts. I don't have any white counterparts.
I'm asking you to respect me by not interrupting me. You can't even do that.
But don't get over here talking about I'm kissing white people's ass. I don't play that game, bro. For real. I'm not Tariq Nasheed. I don't play that shit. If you feel I'm interrupting you, fine, I can apologize. But don't try to run this game like I'm some whole ass motherfucker who be out here kissing white people's ass. I ain't never been that guy. That's
when I tried to address you like a man and say, "Hey, stop interrupting me," you just ran right over that like you did.
I interrupt everybody. That ain't got nothing to do with you being black. That ain't got nothing to do with you being black. So don't try to run that weak ass game that is you ain't white. I don't play those games, bro. I can give you my number and we can get in the fucking ring. That's my word.
Okay, hold on. Hold on.
I don't play that bitch made shit. What the fuck wrong with you, bro?
Come on. All right. Brandon.
Guys, relax.
Okay, hold on. One mic. Brandon, make your point. No ad hominem attacks.
And I'm gonna shut the fuck up.
Go ahead, Brandon.
Man, listen. At the end of the day, affirmative action was put in because white folks are racist. They don't want to give black people a chance. Harvard is racist.
Brandon, are you like at the grocery store? Is it raining in the background? Like,
it's raining. It's raining in California.
Yeah. It's just I can barely hear you, man. It's
okay. Raining. So at the end of the day, everybody is, racist. They're holding black people back. We need a special system to help us get fair treatment. But then when you institute the special system, even the special system is now accused of being racist within it. So the affirmative action thing is not something directed at black people. It's simply the laws of the land that you live in, which says that literally the laws that you fought for, because Martin Luther King said he wants people to not be judged by the color of their skin, but the content of their character, right? And thus their ability. So all the Asians did was say, look, if you guys give black people or anybody else a certain amount of admissions because they're black, you are now judging the situation based on the color of people's skin. people's qualifications no longer matter. And the legacy admissions are not the same as affirmative action, because someone who went to Harvard, Dynas, and you could attest to this, they're going to make sure that they give their kid the basic level of competency for admission to Harvard. Their kid might not perform super good, but they're still going to put their kids in the best schools and in the different pipelines that lead to Harvard admission. The kid might be a C student like George Bush, but he went to those schools. He learned that curriculum a lot, according to that curriculum that is needed for one to.
Did not perform well when he was there.
Oh my God. He learned according to that curriculum that's required to gain admission to Harvard. So he will meet the basic standards of Harvard. That's different from taking some kid who doesn't even have the scores or has scores lower than another kid and saying, look, we're going to put you in front of that person, because now we don't even know if that kid has been put through the rigorous educational training that is needed to even be able to compete at Harvard. And if you look at the situation, Thomas Sowell talked about this. A lot of these people who are given affirmative action admittance, they don't even end up graduating. They end up dropping out because
I would need to see the study or data to back that up.
They're not prepared. The reality is this. It's the only reason Black people are screaming about affirmative action and admission to Harvard is because white folks' ice is colder. We scream it because we want to go to Harvard because that's where white folks go. If anything, people should be celebrating because now the best would be entering into HBCUs, which would increase the standing of HBCUs nationally on whatever list he was talking about. There would be more Black kids who have high scores. They have a lot of, they're very smart, they're highly educated, and they're highly capable. They would then go to HBCUs as opposed to maybe Harvard. In my opinion, Black people should be like, all right, Harvard don't want to do affirmative action. Well, screw them then. But it's not really about school. It's not really about Black people getting the access to the best education. It's all about Black folks. Once again, we're back in the 1960s. It's all about us getting to sit next to some white guy and eat a sandwich, sit next to some white chick and have a coffee. It's all about just being in close proximity to white folks. Most of these folks in this, start helping your kids with their homework first, and then talk about admittance.
Dynas, let me tap in.
All right, you got a minute. Don't interrupt, Brandon. Because I'm going to pass it to Elvis.
So there's a couple of things, right? We're making. So I would say this, because I work in higher ed, I've come across people who had the grades, earned the scholarship to attend the institution, but they lack the cultural capital to successfully matriculate through said institution. The second issue is I'm an advocate of attending HBCUs. I used to work at an HBCU. However, like I stated, when you're talking about going to graduate school, PWIs, HWIs have what? They have more funding, they have larger endowments. And so as a result, if you're a graduate student, you're able to attend to your graduate studies and have a larger stipend each month. So and most advocate that you go to an HBCU for undergrad, and then you go to a PWI, HWI, or a large state institution for your graduate college. So I'm an advocate there. But once again, back to the legacy admissions. Once again, the legacy admissions stem from a system, a history of exclusion, right? These are state institutions where we're paying taxes for these institutions to even be in existence, and Black people for centuries were not allowed to actually attend. The greatest example I provided was that of Martin Delaney. And so those legacy admissions were denied, and there are cases where white students who didn't have the grades or the test scores were still admitted to these institutions based on the fact that they were a legacy admission. There was an Asian woman who actually wrote a book entitled Racism Higher Education. She's a professor at in the higher ed program at UCLA, and she talks about that in her book. So there are cases where white people have been admitted to these predominantly white elite institutions, Ivy League, based on legacy admissions, and they did not have the grades or the test scores. And she mentions this in her book.
All right, go ahead, Elvis.
All right, thank you, Dynas.
Somebody asked a question about the practice definition of cultural capital. So cultural capital was having the cultural knowledge of how to navigate and move in a particular space, right? So Dynas has a background in Dynas, your background is in what? Sales, but corporate America. So there's a certain culture in corporate America that Dynas is knowledgeable of and knows how to move or maneuver in order to be successful. Same as in any industry, particularly higher education, right? Oftentimes what we find is students who are first generation, they may have the grades, the test scores, they may be able to test through the roof, but they lack the cultural capital to successfully navigate through said institution. And as a result, they may drop out. So those are some things to be considerate of. I've had some students who I tried to mentor when I was working at Ohio State who end up dropping out because of the lack of cultural capital and not understanding how to go about developing relationships with institutional agents that are, of course, that care about your success, invested in your success.
All right, go ahead, Elvis.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to say this. We know America has never been a meritocracy where everything is based on merits. It's never been that way. Another way to look at affirmative action is like corrective action. So they did a study on this whole thing where they knew that African Americans, minorities weren't getting a fair share. You have people who have implicit biases when you go to apply for college just based on your race. Even job applications, people have implicit biases, so they know this was a problem. That's why they put in affirmative actions to give people who were being discriminated against a chance to get the same quality education as their white counterparts. So when people say that even Clarence Thomas, who was a Supreme Court justice, affirmed that he benefited from affirmative action. Would he have been a Supreme Court justice if that law wasn't passed and they couldn't deny him because maybe they didn't like the way his hair looked or his nose was too big? So when you take away this is a guardrail that's going to allow people to just look at you and say, well, yeah, he has the grades, but this other person has the same grades, but just I just like the way they look. They just seem nicer, and thereby I'm going to admit this person over him or over her. So for me, I think this is a slippery slope because you're looking at the job market. If you go to a corporate, the corporate America, you have somebody who have a degree from Howard and the person who has a degree from Harvard. You know, maybe even the same GPA, everything is similar, but somebody is going to respect the institution of Harvard more than they will the institution of Howard. So that's why being able to get into these, Ivy League schools and these quote unquote top schools is important for minority people because that helps level the playing field when it comes to the job market after college. It's not like black people are leading, industries and corporation where as a black person, when you graduate from Howard, you got a pipeline to go work for a black owned corporation without being, discriminated against. So I think it's a slippery slope, and I think Brandon, you're off point on this topic, and I think Dr. Lumumba, you're right on with the things that you're saying. I just want to make that two
But
statements.
but 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 the reality is, when it comes to hiring, you can go to Harvard and go through Harvard with affirmative action all you want to. That doesn't mean that the job market isn't suddenly going to stop. It's going to suddenly stop being racist. So that's what I'm telling you. You guys are confusing getting admitted into a college with someone's like potential for success. That has nothing to do with it because either way, if the job market is that way, why wouldn't you make college that way to prepare you for a job market that where someone might not like you, might not choose you because of the way you look? And anyway, we're the ones who claimed affirmative action wasn't working. We're the ones who constantly complained about it, bellyached about it. So if they're getting rid of it, why are you still complaining? It wasn't working for you anyway.
What college did
To
you
a
go to,
certain degree,
Brandon?
Again, I agree with Elvis and Professor Lumumba on their points. I mean, they're just being obviously factual. They don't have a political allegiance to anything. Their allegiance seems to be the truth and what's been going on that everyone could clearly see. Um, I just want to address what Brandon was saying in the beginning, which I, which is to me is disturbing. I don't think anyone's challenging him. He keeps saying, Brandon says something to the effect of that black people are lazy and they don't want to work and they don't want to do anything. They don't want to get up. He just slapped everybody in the face, including our mother, parents, and our loved ones. I don't know black people that are lazy that don't want to work. Most of the black people that I know are hardworking, get up in the morning or at night to work and do what they have to do like everybody else. All we're saying, like everybody else, is just give us a fair shake. Don't prejudge us. So that's the one thing I want to say with this self-loathing that black people don't are just just inherently backwards, which is just a Candace Owens Republican talking point. Black people are dangerous. Black people are that. It's white racist talking points. The same thing like Els was saying, Lumumba, Clarence Thomas, the same programs that helped him get to where he is. He wants to burn all those programs down to the ground, which is very hypocritical. Now, we all know affirmative action is just basically is something that was needed for black people because you had, hey, look, it's a capitalist society. You can hire who you want.
Yeah, but affirmative action was never specifically for only black people. Am I right or wrong?
Yes, like civil rights. So, like, civil rights was supposed to be specifically for black people, but it was for everybody else except for a white man. So if you're handicapped, it's for you. If you're a woman, it's for you. If you're Asian, it's for you. Yeah, it was co-opted. But what I'm trying to say, like, perfect example. I use a real life situation. When I was a teenager, I was going for a job. I was working with the environment, right? I took like high school to go into college credit courses. Everyone in this job market, they wanted young people. Long story short, I had to pass 3 benchmarks, and I passed all 3 benchmarks. There was an Asian kid, a white kid, and a white girl, right? The Asian kid messed up, right? He missed one of the benchmarks. No, he missed 2 of the benchmarks. I hit all 3 of the benchmarks, and I got a donation. So at the end of this trial run, we went back to headquarters to see who was going to do it. I was like, oh, I'm definitely going to do it. I'm going to get it because, I got it. Came back, they say I wasn't qualified. I was like, how am I not qualified? They say, well, sir, how, your delivery and how you were speaking and stuff like that. Which means how I was speaking. How I was speaking was totally fine.
I agree with him
She
right now.
made a unilateral decision based upon that to disqualify me. And they were doing that with a lot of black people. First interview, there was a lot of black people. They cut them in half. When the second interview, when I came, there was probably only like 3 black people, including myself. And then they dropped me. Now, do I know definitely that's what it was? I don't know. But when you look at how they were treating me and the black people that was left over, you have to say, okay, there's discrimination. So moving forward, my whole point is to say, this is what was happening systemically all throughout the United States. People were hiring by color, not qualification. So it's bullshit if anyone's going to tell you, I don't care if they're black, white, or polka dot, saying that they're hiring black people just because they're black. That's bullshit. That's a white supremacist talking point.
Diners. They stood up out of one side of their mouth. They stood up and complained about how affirmative action was racist. It didn't benefit black people at all. But then when they get rid of it, they complain about them getting rid of it. Why are you complaining about something that never benefited you? According to you,
I never said it didn't benefit black people, Brandon. I don't think any of us are saying that on this platform right now.
They literally said that English is your second language, so you don't understand quite what they're saying clearly.
See, there you go again. And that's why I asked you, what college did you go to, Brandon? What college did you graduate from? Answer that question.
He has nothing. He has to insult you.
I never went to college, but I did go to college, but I didn't graduate. But what I do know is 2 people just sat up here and admitted that affirmative action never benefited us. And you said no one ever said that. So you're wrong. So with all your college education, you can't even understand what these people are saying because they 2 people, Lumumba and the brother who just spoke, just admitted that affirmative action didn't benefit them. And the other brother, Black Lion, said that. So either you're not able to keep up, but I'm the one who's dumb because I didn't go to school. And that's what I'm telling you. These dudes look at college as if it's some type of badge of superiority to other black people. So when anything threatens their ability to go sit up in there with white folks, now they feel attacked, right? But the reality is any man knows it's all about the work a man's going to put in. No one owes you anything. White people don't owe you shit, not even affirmative action, nothing. And I hope they never give you another fucking thing because it'll make us better.
I'm Elvis. I'm one of those people he's speaking about, and you're right. That's not what was being said. He tried to draw a narrative. He has to insult people because he has nothing else in his arsenal. So he has to insult. That's what people have to go to when they're losing the argument and can't be man enough to say, you know what, brother, I see your point, but we are, me, you, and Lumumba, we are saying the same thing. And again, if you believe you want to go with Brandon and feel that black people ain't shit, he feel you ain't shit, probably feel his mama ain't shit, but I don't see black people like that. Are there people like that in our society? Yes, there are people like that in our society. But
The only
I'm not going to
person,
say that that's the totality of black people in
the
our
only
society.
person,
I'm
the
not
only
saying
person, the only person putting black people down is the person that keeps saying that black people can't do nothing without white people helping them. That you're putting black people down. I'm a grown man. I take care of my family just fine. I don't sit up and be like, I need another man to give me a special favor so I could take care of them. That's y'all saying that. Y'all crying about what the Supreme Court said is unconstitutional, and it is unconstitutional. Nobody should get any favorable treatment based on their race. Work harder. That's it. That is it.
And at the same time, you don't care. And at the same time, you're saying you don't give a rat's ass if discrimination is being done on black people. If you have that pull up yourself by your bootstraps mentality, so you're double talking. First of all, you're going to say, "Oh, I'm my own man. We should do that." But when we say, "Okay, give us an opportunity to do that," then you say we're complaining. You're a hypocrite.
Dinus, what white guy is paying you and making sure that you could pay your bills every month, Dinus?
Well, white guy?
Yeah.
Maybe partially YouTube, maybe.
Okay.
Everybody isn't self-employed. There are people who work for corporations and they're getting paid by white people.
So if this is what I'm saying, black folks got a lot of money. We spending money. We flying all over the place. We going to the DR. We going to the Maldives. We doing everything we want to do. Clearly, there ain't no invisible ceiling keeping you from getting to where you want to be. We got females spending $3, $4, $5, $1,000 on fake hair, bruh. We're doing pretty well. So what you guys keep saying about we need affirmative action to help us fight against this systematic white supremacy that's holding us back, I'm not seeing it. I see a bunch of black men all on here, probably all making over $100,000 a year, all can get on a plane, fly wherever they want to, do whatever they want to if they want to do it. Whatever we want to do. Pookie and Ray Ray, if they want that new charger, they could go from not having nothing, having one pair of drawers. I guarantee you within a couple of months, they will have that new charger just to pull up on their friends and be like, nigga, look what I got. It happens every day.
It's not about us. It's not about us. It's about those who are underprivileged who may not have the same opportunities that we have.
Okay, hold on. Let's pass it to Todd, and we'll pass it to T. Khalid. Go ahead, Todd.
Hey man, appreciate it. Hey, first of all, like Brandon, I understand the thing what you're trying to say, and I don't necessarily disagree. But you also got to remember, in this place, we got credit. So you are equating money and access necessarily with credit, and them two different things. You see what I'm saying?
Let me ask you a question. What are you trying to do right now that you can't do in America? Tell me one thing that white people are preventing you from doing in America, my brother.
Absolutely nothing.
Okay. So see what Dinus. Do you see the point I'm making, Dinus? Do you see the point I'm making?
Yeah, hold on. Hey, don't pivot to Dinus. You asked me a question, so keep talking to me. You understand what I'm saying? Hey, first of all, I ain't in America. Second of all, I'm a disabled veteran, 100% permanent total. I'm retired at 46 years old. So my situation is a little different than the rest of the situations that other motherfuckers might be talking about.
All right,
so don't pivot to Dinah.
Go ahead, T. Go ahead, T. No, hold on, Brad. Go ahead, T. Go ahead, T.
No, my question is, I don't do Africans who come to this country and do well, do they complain about affirmative action? Because technically speaking, they will be considered black skinned like us. So they should be having the same issues. Yet why is it only African Americans complaining about this? Because if the acumen in the African community, hold on, brother.
Let him finish, Todd. Go ahead,
brother. If the acumen in the African community is hard work to make a lot of money, where the parents focus on their children, why can't African Americans do the same thing? Because we are the only race complaining about this. I don't even see Latinos complaining about it. So it does seem like we do want a leg up, instead of if we were really smart and intelligent in the political arena, we'll say, okay, then how do we raise the education levels in the African American community to rival that of the white community, instead of getting a free handout and a leg up? Why don't we want to be just as intelligent? Why do we want to be accepted with lower scores? as if we're stupid
Hey,
and
Generational
content
wealth.
on being
Generational
handicapped
wealth
as a
plays a
race
big
of
part in that.
people.
I can answer that question.
pretty please, hold on. Pretty please with sugar on top. Pretty please with sugar on top. Let me go ahead and get that one right
All right,
quick.
go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
First of all, you talking like white people have achieved everything that they have achieved through history based off of merit alone. That is provably motherfucking false.
He didn't say that at all. He didn't say that at all.
Todd, let me interject. You're not answering.
I ain't say he said that. I said he acting like it. Pay attention. I said you acting like it.
Todd,
You
Todd,
talking like it.
Todd, answer the question, please.
What was the question?
Oh, god damn. Okay.
Let me answer the question.
Exactly, bro.
Let me
These
answer the
dudes,
question. Let me answer the question.
hey, no. These dudes aren't even listening.
As a fellow person, I
Wait,
may not
hold
be
on.
African from the continent, but I'm from the Caribbean, so I'm a so-called immigrant, right? So to say that, like he made a good point. We're a black-skinned people, so we're going to face with the same adversities that Black Americans face. But I think he's trying to draw the same. Well, Black American, Black. What were you saying? Did he just say we're black-skinned people like Africans? So shouldn't Africans have that same problem, right? Or because Black Americans is the only one complaining and not the Africans? Isn't that what you just said? So exactly.
They're not answering the question,
So as a person that's from an immigrant background, what you're not understanding is that yes, we do have those same problems, right? We do have those same problems. We may not be the loudest voice in the room, but we do have those same problems. I have that problems. I have my aunts that have the same problem.
I have that same problem as well, brother, and I can tell
because
you
we're black. We're all
Brother, come on, man. Africans do not complain about the same things African Americans complain about. Y'all don't even talk about white supremacy and structural racism. Come on, man.
What do we do?
Okay.
What did we
Hold
do?
on,
during Jim Crow.
Denying that it's not happening is bullshit. The question is, okay, since you're African or you Caribbean, you face the same thing that we did. What are you guys doing that we're not doing? That's a sensible question. But to deny and say that's even happening is total foolishness.
Okay. All right.
That's a false premise, though.
Collectively speaking, you don't see Africans complaining about this. Collectively
yes, I know Nigerians that have the same
African American issue.
I know Nigerians that say the same
complain about it. They do complain about it.
Exactly.
And that's a false premise to begin with it. Because even during Jim Crow, when African nations was first getting their independence from colonialism and they was coming over to America, they was the American government was contemplating trying to give them some special badges to make sure that the powers that be don't confuse them niggas with us niggas. There's some similarities.
Hold on. One mic. Todd, I need you to provide some type of proof of that.
Yes. If you read, hey, first of all, I guarantee you, if Professor Lumumba tap in, he could tell you.
No, Todd,
I know what the hell I'm talking about.
You made the statement, Todd. I want you to back that up with. You to back that up. Go ahead.
All right. So if you read Gerald Horne's book, The Counter Revolution of 1776, in that book, he discusses what's her name? Angela Davis. He discusses other prominent black people of the time who was trying to speak with different accents and all of this kind of stuff because they knew, just like what's her name? Yvette Carnell been saying, like, hey, this ain't the same thing and it ain't just about race. There was a specific approved disadvantage.
Todd, you are all over the place, bro.
No, I'm not. I'm not though.
No, Todd.
I'm right here.
Todd, answer the question. Show me where the United States government gave preferred treatment to African or black immigrants over black Americans. I want you to be specific. Show that to me.
I started my statement by saying, if you read Gerald Horne's book, Professor Gerald Horne, The Counter Revolution of 1776, these instances are cited there.
I started it saying that. I already covered your question,
You
and
did.
I
You
was
didn't
just
answer.
adding to it.
No, no,
You
no,
didn't
no,
answer the
no.
question.
He gave you a vague reference
A
where we
vague
don't even
reference.
know
I'm
that
saying
what
that
he
he
said
gave
was
you
in
the
there.
book.
Listen, listen, be quiet. Wait,
Donnie,
hold on.
hey, hey,
Dinus,
hey, peep gang, peep
Dinus,
gang,
I've been
peep gang,
quiet.
peep gang.
Dinus, I've
What
been
I'm gonna
quiet.
do is,
Hey,
what
hey,
I'm gonna do is,
we can't keep,
what I'm gonna do is,
no, no, we can't keep
first of
what you
all,
don't have. We, we
hey,
can't keep what
hold
you
on.
don't. No, you've been talking. You've been talking. You've been talking.
I'll reference
Hey,
two
we
things.
gave you, we
Hey,
gave you a
no,
chance
hey,
to
y'all
talk.
was asking
We
Hold
gave
on,
you
questions.
a
hold
chance
on,
to
hold on.
talk.
You weren't asking questions.
One mic. T, go ahead, T. Go ahead and finish, T.
No, what I was saying, because and I'm not in no way, shape, or form am I putting FBA people down or saying that Africans are better than African Americans, but it's just a simple fact that how is it that Africans can come over here and very poor situations and thrive? You don't ever hear them complain about white supremacy or structural racism. They're over here telling their kids to become doctors and lawyers. You don't see them telling their kids to be rappers, basketball players, and football players. They are getting into colleges. Why is it that it's just African Americans complaining? And I'm pretty sure when these Africans come over here poor, they're not in no good neighborhoods. I can guarantee you that they probably don't even have enough money to be in a good neighborhood. So how is it that they're achieving and excelling, yet African Americans are like, we want affirmative action? Why can't we just be like, yo, let's focus on our kids' education? Or if we want to be in a political movement, why don't we pressure these Democrats who we vote for to raise the education levels in our communities to meet that of the white communities? Instead of being handicapped, instead of having low scores to get into college because our scores aren't the same as the white person scores, but we got a handicap. Like, why do we want to accept mediocrity in our community?
Hey, can I say this? Look, I live in Long Beach, California, in a city that is in an area that is very homosexual, right? You got black people over here spending 20,000, 50,000, $100,000 to get hormone replacement therapy, sex change operations, and everything else. Nothing is stopping black people from doing anything that they want to do. And the question I would like to pose to everybody on the panel to make this clear, since everybody says Brandon's delivery. Let's do this, Dinus. Can everybody on this panel name one single thing that they actually want to do that white supremacy is stopping them from doing, and or the lack of affirmative action? And I promise you, if we go around, no one can name one thing, and that's how you know that this is just a scam. It's a grift. It's a psyop that
Stop
black
it,
people
Chris.
that black people perpetuate because they believe that they're going to benefit from it. And even though it's been proven time and time again, the Democrats and all these people talking this shit, they're not going to do anything for you. Dinus, look, Obama had a super majority for 2 years when he was president, where he could have passed anything he wanted to pass. The same Democrats who making all these promises. Why didn't they codify affirmative action? Why didn't they amend the Constitution to say affirmative action will be here forever? Because this is just a lie. It's a scam. They're making you think they care about affirmative action when in reality they support the diversity and not letting black people in based on merit. Because if they didn't, why would they be letting all these immigrants into the country who are going to challenge you on affirmative action? They got you to vote for them with the promise of handouts and free shit. They told you that was a lie. They pretended. They said we're not really going to do that, and you're still out here screaming and belly aching about what they're never going to give you. Now, can they answer that question? What is white supremacy stopping them from doing right now?
All right, go ahead, Elvis.
All right. Education is the greatest it's the greatest equalizer, right? One of the things that distinguished me when I was applying for college is extracurriculum activities. That's one of the things that a lot of poor black families don't have the means to put their kids into, whether it's after school tennis or for example, for me, I was in Model UN, I did other stuff that distinguished me and that got me into the college that I wanted to go to. So generational wealth, like somebody was saying, sure, some of us were Africans and we immigrate to this country. We're poor, sometimes even poorer than other African Americans because we have no wealth that was no generational wealth. So our parents are working sometimes 2 jobs. So one of the people that helped me at my school was my history teacher. He got me into all of these programs because he saw my potential. He helped me get into these extracurriculum programs that helped me get into college. Sometimes you need people like that who will help you guide, who will help guide you to get you
Was
into
he
the
black?
college that you want to get into. He wasn't black; he was a white man.
I
You
already
know,
knew that.
How are you
that's
ignoring the
why.
culture though, Elvis?
That's why. Like somebody said, we need more black people who are college educated to put their hands around the black community to mentor black kids
Why
because those
why
kids
would
need
a white
resources.
supremacist help you? Why would a white
I
supremacist racist
never
help you?
said
He didn't
anything
say he
about
was a
white
white supremacist.
supremacy. I'm only trying to point out that extracurriculum activities is important. So when these Asian kids come, they're not just going with their GPA because they're looking at what you did outside of that. That's one of the things that get you into these universities.
Elvis,
For me, I was a
Elvis, you
first
didn't answer
generation of
you didn't
college
answer
student.
the question. You're not answering the question.
My point here is I'm not going to pinpoint anything that white people are stopping me from doing. But if I don't get an education that levels the playing field for me to improve my life and my family's life, so to speak, then I'm putting myself at a disadvantage.
But
So if somebody can admit me into college simply because they don't like me, or the way I speak, or the way I enunciate, maybe my English is not so good, that
But
person
but
can
they
do
didn't
that just.
but they didn't stop you. They let you go to college. They helped you. White people even helped you. And you're talking about if someone could do that. Bro, you guys can't actually prove or give an
Brandon,
example of
do
it,
you
but you
know
swear
the
it's
study
the
Can,
before
boogeyman.
can, can
It's
I
Elvis,
the
answer the
Elvis,
question?
boogeyman.
affirmative
Elvis,
Can
action?
I answer
Elvis,
the question? I can answer the question.
Yes,
Elvis is even
before
proving
affirmative
my point
action.
because he keeps talking about education and culture. That's not in the African American community. It's playing around. It's wannabe basketball players. It's females twerking all the time. It's everything is play hee hee ha
No,
ha.
bro. My
You're
All
parents.
you're
Okay, I will
proving
facts.
tell
my
you this.
point,
I'm
Elvis.
not proving your point. I'm
Yes,
trying to tell
you
you my
are. You're
Yes,
talking
you
about
hold
are.
on.
education. It's in
Hold
your
on.
culture.
My
Come
parents
on.
didn't have the means, right?
Well,
My
were they
parents didn't have the
twerking?
means.
Did they
So
did they try to get you to become a basketball player or a
no, but
football
the
player?
point that I'm making is it took one person in my school to see my potential and help me get into these different programs because he's a college graduate. He knows the steps that it takes to get into the college that you desire to get into. And he helped me. My parents had no idea how I was going to get into college. Some African parents, they just want you to go to school and get good grades. They don't even tutor you at home. Not all, but some of them don't tutor you. If you're just a bright kid, you're going to get into college by the help of others, people who see your potential, people who are mentoring you, because we have some Africans or Black Americans who came to our schools to help us get into college prep and other things like that. So these people are the ones who will guide you and mold you to get into those universities.
But
Sometimes
how
your parents who
how is it
never
we
went
don't
to
see
school.
many Africans in poverty in America? It's mostly African Americans. If Africans to come out of poverty from America, can you not agree that it's something within the culture of the people that's telling them to strive to be the best that they can be from the conditions that they came from? Why is it that African Americans
There
can
are
have
more
that same
African
culture?
Americans in
T
college than
T Khalid.
Africans, right? There are
T
more African
Khalid. You
Americans in college than
T
Africans.
Khalid.
Hey, go ahead, Michelle. Go ahead, Michelle. Meet yourself. Go ahead, Michelle.
Good evening, panel. This is definitely a very good discussion. I'm going to have to ride with Miss Pan African Strikes Back and Brother T on this one. I respect.
Al Sharpton or a Benjamin
Well,
Crump. He's
let me go ahead, Michelle. Brandon, you have went out. Michelle's talking now. Go ahead, Brandon. Go ahead, Michelle.
I admire your experience on how you got into college. And I thank you for sharing that. But the real issue is, and one concern that somebody mentioned in the comment section, we don't if we're going to be the best we're going to be as a people, we don't need affirmative action. Why can't we use our talents and our strength within ourselves to build? Many people come from the African and Caribbean, and once they come from the African and Caribbean, they stay here and neglect the motherland and the Caribbean. With affirmative action, I think by them killing affirmative action, this gives an opportunity to rebuild ourselves so that we can be the strong people that we can be. Affirmative action, to me, was also used as a tool to disunite us. So to help disunite us, I think now that because, like, for instance, I went to an HBCU. The reason why I went to an HBCU because I tried to go to the PIW school and they rejected me, and I went to an HBCU, and I'm so glad they rejected me because I am so glad I went to an HBCU school, and I never regret it. So why can't we go back to our institutions, build them up like any other community? Which they had, if the Chinese had HBCUs, they would be holding on to it.
Oh, absolutely.
No one is saying not to for us to come together and galvanize. You guys are mixing two things that no one's saying. What we're saying with affirmative action, is helpful. Affirmative action was to level the playing field. That's all that it was.
We would do it, but actually, black people, the conditions were harsh, but actually, we were thriving better. The conditions were harsh, but we were together.
Okay. So,
mainly,
how does that make the situation better? If you see injustice and inequality, I don't know how correcting that injustice and inequality that benefits black people, how is that a negative? And this is what you guys are trying to prove. You're trying to prove something positive as something negative. That's where you're losing me.
No, it's because you're getting a handicap. Why can't we be like the Asians? You know, affirmative action is affecting them. No, I'm gonna tell you why, brother, because they're complaining that they're not getting in because of their high academic scores, and affirmative action would rather put a black person in with a lower score than them. Why can't we be the race that competes with them and have the same scores as them? Why are we content?
Because Asians can be a disproportionate number of admission in college. That's why that's where you get the level playing field from. There are a lot of Asians who are in college. If you ever went to college, there are a lot of Asians.
No, there is. But I'm just saying, but black people can do the same. Like, are you not seeing that? Why can't we do the same?
You know that even if black people become like the Asians, we still can be a disproportionate number of the college admittance into college, right? That would be disproportionate. So that's what affirmative action is. You have to give a certain percentage to a certain group of people.
I don't think you understand it, man. No, I get what you're saying, but if Asians are disproportionate in Harvard or any other college, that means in their culture, they are telling their kids to strive to be the best that they can be. Why can't we do the same as black people?
For example,
how did they become disproportionate then?
Hold on now. If you're an Asian person and you have a 4.6 GPA, and I'm a black person and I have a 4.6 GPA, first thing first, they're looking at the high schools, right? Where you went to high school, your community. If I grew up in Northside Minneapolis and I went to, let's say, Patrick Henry High, which is one of the schools out there, and that school, I did really well. I was maybe the top 2 or 3 in my class, but that's not a great school to go to. And you have an Asian kid who went to maybe a better high school in a better situated neighborhood. That's an advantage for that person. And then you're looking at extracurricular activities just based on your GPA. You can look at yourself and say, "Well, I was the best in my high school," but then competing with somebody else who went to a better high school, who has more extracurricular activities. But I'm a first generation of college student. I'm trying to get out of poverty, trying to move from my ghetto, quote unquote, to get into a better life and help to lift my family out of poverty. They're looking at that and say, well, there are already a lot of Asians. That Asian person could probably get into another, Ivy League school. But this is a first step for them to move out of generational poverty and help their family. So they'll give you that edge. It's corrective actions. Corrective actions. Based on history of discrimination. That's why they put affirmative.
So out of all the races, we are the only race that needs a
I want to speak because I don't have much time.
Information.
Let me just say a few words. I want to put some things in perspective because I'm hearing a lot of incorrect things up here.
One mic. Hold on, just 1 second. Let Michelle finish, and I'll pass to you information.
Oh no, I'll pass the mic to information man. How are you? Long time.
I'm doing fine, sister. Thank you.
Go ahead.
I'm just going to make my statements to the point, and I'm not looking to debate and go back and forth with people. I did a video about this. We're bad students of history. Okay. The reality is that, and I heard people say this, well, was it meant for black people? Hell yeah, it was, because it was black people who were discriminated and put in unequal schools, going all the way back to Board versus Board of Education. Have y'all forgotten that? So it was black people. Let me finish, because I'm not debating with nobody.
Bro, I just said thank you. Calm your ass down.
Thank you. No, you calm your ass down. That's what I said to you. All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you. Now I'm going to continue, and I don't want to hear from you. Now, have we forgotten the history in which black people were disenfranchised, put in unequal schools, unequal classrooms? We had loving teachers, but books and everything were rotten to the core. Now, affirmative action was originally designed for black people before all these other immigrant groups got over here. We forget that these other immigrant groups just got over here. They weren't here during those years. Black people were putting up with the dogs and the hoses on us to make this place safe for immigrants that came over here and got benefits. The reason why you have historical black colleges, also besides slave masters building some of those schools, is because we were being mistreated and not equally getting access to other universities that white people got. Even Jewish people had to create their own colleges. How do you think Temple got created? Temple was a university that Jewish people created because they were also being discriminated against as well because of their religious background nuances. Man. So what I'm basically saying to you is that originally it was meant for us, and where people always get this wrong is that they say, oh, they let in black people with less test scores and less abilities. No, affirmative action was designed to give people who had the skills, the educational acumen to get into school, but for what not be their race, they would have not been allowed to get into school. So you had black people that were qualified to go to these schools and would not be allowed to go in because they were black. Now, I'm going to make this point to all of you here. If black people that had low test scores, that were not good students, were allowed to go into schools because of affirmative action, then how the hell did they pass school? Because when you get into a university, you don't take an affirmative action test. You don't read affirmative action books. The professor's not looking at your paper as affirmative action. When he says, I want you to write this particular essay, you have to pass this essay or pass this multiple question quiz. You're taking the same exam and have to come up with the same answers as everybody that came into that school, whether it was because of affirmative action or because they was white and their daddy paid money to the school that allowed them to get in. We forget that affirmative action was originally designed for white people. When it came to Social Security, that was designed for white people. Black folks didn't get that. White people have had affirmative action for years. It's called a legacy clause. Don't mess with me up here. I'm the information man, God damn it. White folks have benefited from affirmative action forever. While y'all arguing about black people, I'm gonna land my plane. While we sitting up here arguing about black people, whether we need it or we don't need it, we forget white women. Come on, sisters, y'all need to hear this. White women have been the biggest recipients of affirmative action. They have benefited from it more than anybody. So this whole thing that, Asians are being discriminated against, bullshit. I got the numbers right here. I always come prepared. This whole lawsuit was about North Carolina and Harvard. Guess what? At Harvard University, this is their legitimate enrollment numbers based on race. Hispanics got in at 11.1%. Black people at only 10.1%. And Asians that are crying and whining, give me a goddamn break. Asians got in at 22.6%, higher than us. What are we talking about? It's hurting these other groups. No, it's not. White people dominate at 47%, not to mention they get that legacy. And when they took down affirmative action, isn't it funny that they didn't get rid of the quotas for those that have legacy, and they didn't take down the quotas for the military because they want your black asses in the military so you could die for this country. So they didn't take that down, but it's discriminatory when it comes to going to school, but not discriminatory when it comes to legacy and the military. Bullshit. Now let's look at the North Carolina statistics. And all this can be found online. Check this out. Black people were only getting into North Carolina under this affirmative action thing at about 10%. Asians still at 22%. White folks at 65% at UMC. And check this out. If anybody needs to be arguing, it's the Native Americans. They're only getting in at 1%. So if affirmative action is somehow created an unequal situation, then why is it that you don't have more black people in these schools, the two schools that they had a lawsuit over? Okay. And why is it that Native Americans are not getting in at high numbers if it's supposed to change the whole playing field? What I would say to y'all as I end right now is that affirmative action was needed for the older generation. We're sitting up here living in our sophisticated life in the 21st century, arguing about this thing, forgetting that it was black people in the 40s and 30s and all those years. They the ones that suffered more than all of us. So this was needed for them. Okay. Now, this passing of affirmative action was not a Democratic policy. It was a Republican policy passed by who? I'm not a crook. And that is Nixon. Nixon put it into law. It was a law 114 114, 169, something like that. It was a law that was put in. So the Republicans put this in. It wasn't a Democratic policy. And if you look at that Dateline special on Clarence Thomas, Clarence Thomas had a personal issue with this because he thought that every job that he got was because of he thought that his degree was stained. He felt that his degree was stained when he graduated from Holy Cross. When he went to Harvard, he felt that his degree was worth only 10 cents. They did a whole documentary on him. So this was personal for Clarence Thomas because of what happened to him personally. However, Clarence Thomas, every job he ever got, and you had white folks that talked about this, they gave him the job because they wanted a qualified black man. They wanted a qualified lawyer, but they wanted someone that happened to be black and qualified. And that's how he got a lot of his jobs, even though he wasn't happy with some of his appointments. So, Dinas, I'm just wanting to land there, my brother. When we have these discussions, you need to have people that come up here with facts, numbers, figures, and have done their goddamn homework. I'm out of here. I respect you, my brother Dinas. Thank you.
What he said was he probably got in.
You don't want to
the
challenge how this is going back.
Sir, what other? I just said that when I came up here, I've got to go, so I can't stay on and keep. I'm not going to debate you guys. What is the conversation? I just broke down the history. I reminded you of how affirmative action was created, and what are we? So then, what is the debate today in the 21st century? I'm
disagreeing with you on the fact that affirmative action was specifically
what is the debate,
for black
sir?
people. No, I'm saying this. If it was specifically for blacks only, I honestly won't care, to be honest with you, because it's helping black people.
Right.
But it's for everybody else. It's not just for us. It's
Originally,
for everybody else, and that's the problem.
Originally, sir, I'll say respectfully to you. Originally, it was tailored to us. Most of the civil rights laws in this country, if you go back and look at the history, you know this already, it was tailored to black people. What happened is when other groups came over, they put them under the umbrella of it because it was civil rights, right? So I agree with you, but what I'm saying is I'm actually not upset that they got rid of the affirmative action because I think that it benefited our ancestors more than it has us today, okay? But my question, and the same question I said on my channel, is, okay, affirmative action is over. So what are black people going to do for self? Because we know that this could, and you guys talked about this, it could increase HBCU enrollment, which means what? We should be supporting our black colleges, and maybe there'll be an influx of black students that will go to those schools, and maybe we should support these colleges, and maybe these HBCUs should get their fucking infrastructure together and fix some shit and get some dormitories fixed right, because there's going to be an influx of black people that's going to probably go to those schools, because we need to do for ourselves and not sit around and say, oh, I'm waiting on the white men to give us another form of affirmative action. No, I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying, when we talk about debate these issues, we should come with some facts first, because I heard people saying that, oh, originally it wasn't for black people. Yes, it was. These people, Asians and all these folks, when this stuff was put into law, those folks wasn't even thought of. It was black folks that were disenfranchised, and we forget that shit. And that's a damn shame.
Information on man. Can I ask you a question, please?
Yes, sir.
So what does that mean for black folks on the job market if you have people going to HBCUs compared to people who go to Ivy Leagues and you're applying?
I'll say this. Let's be honest. You know, I live in California, so we got Stanford, we got Cal Berkeley, and of course, you know, Ward Connolly was the one that got rid of affirmative action in California years ago, and there has been a dip in the UC system of black and other ethnic group enrollment. It's been cut in half by 1/3 in California. So it has had an effect. However, there are some loopholes that they could use for like area codes. Maybe you write an essay and talk about what you've gone through. But I do know that a Stanford degree, and I hate what I'm about to say, a degree from Cal Berkeley and Stanford, Prince Dinas, you know this, is going to be seen as worth a lot more than a degree from Morehouse and Howard. And I'm not going to sit up here and lie to any of you and say that it isn't the fact when it is the fact. And that's a sad commentary. And that's why I say that the presidents of our HBCUs, they got to do better with the money that they do get. We got to hold them accountable, especially if we're going to be sending our kids to those schools, because maybe for whatever reason they don't get into the other schools of their choice. But I'm not going to lie to you. a degree from Stanford and Cal Berkeley and UCLA and Harvard and all those schools, it will get you through more doors than a degree from Howard or Morehouse. But it's what you do with your degree is what matters more. It's what you do with your education. And I hate that I had to say that statement. How do you feel about that?
No, I agree. Definitely, when you have a degree from Stanford, Cal Berkeley, I'll throw in UCLA, hell, and then of course the Ivy League schools, it definitely puts you in another category versus having really a degree from anywhere else, even my University of Georgia degree.
Yeah. I'm going to just get off the panel and say this. Much respect to everybody on the panel. If I did disrespect anybody, I apologize. But Black people, we got to do for ourselves. And as long as we're living in this plantation called America, we're going to always have to deal with these problems. And it's just a reality.
For sure.
And
yeah,
you know,
that's what it, real quick, can we get a reparations update, Information Man Show real quick? Just
well,
a minute,
on the 29th in California, they had the last meeting for the reparation, the committee, but we haven't gotten back what the final results are. I'm going to be honest with you, Dynas. I'm under the impression right now that what's basically going to happen, let's just keep it real. Black people are not going to get any cash payments. They're probably just going to create programs, right? Create more bureaucracy. And they're going to create programs, whether it be scholarship programs, housing programs, and things of that nature. I really believe that that's what's going to happen, even though I want cash payments. But the reality is they're not going to give us cash payments.
Mr. Information, actually, I know.
But something is going to happen, Dynas. Something's going to happen. But my prediction is that it will be programs. You know how America works. When it comes to us, it's about programs.
Exactly. Of course.
Yes, sir.
Hey, we're going to go ahead and close out. Everyone, thank you so much for joining. Like, share, subscribe. Until next time, family, Dynas Mirror Search for Huru. Peace.